right, and just everyone, this is Ronick. He's actually the CEO of Rome and will be joining us today. My name is Tom Birchnell. I head up marketing. And then we have the wonderful Claudia, who will be taking us through this webinar, who is one of our lead Rome advisors. We're going to go ahead and look to kick off now. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. This webinar will be around 20 to 30 minutes, and we will provide a Q&A at the end of it. So please, during the webinar, if you have any questions at all, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. We will either answer them live if it makes sense to answer live. Any of more complex ones that require a little discussion, we'll keep to the end as a Q&A. But we look forward to teaching you all about assumable mortgages and how it is truly one of the greatest ways to increase your GCI this year. So with that, Claudia, I'm going to let you kick it off and take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom. Hey guys, welcome to the Rome Agent webinar. I'm Claudia, and thanks for joining our session today titled Beyond Traditional, Leveraging Assumable Mortgages for a Competitive Edge. So during this session, my goal today is just to talk a little bit about mortgage assumptions, how you can use them to build your business, and how you can partner with Rome to scale and close more deals. And as Tom mentioned, we'll have that brief Q&A at the end. So the big question is, well, who's Rome, right? Like, who are we? And our founder was really excited and inspired to make home buying more affordable again, especially in today's market. After we've talked with so many agents and so many buyers, we've just been hearing the same story over and over again. Rates are so high, people are being priced out of being able to buy, and it's been really hard for people to find assumable listings. So people wonder, well, how can I even find this data? And as you can probably attest, if you've done this yourself, when you go in to find an assumable home before, you have to rely on the MLS data, right? So for some markets, it's those little check boxes if it's checked, or it might be an assumable keyword like searching for assumability. Or even better yet, sometimes sellers didn't even know that they have an assumable, which is pretty common too. So what we did is built this platform where buyers and agents can filter and do their search that way. You can even sign up for the listing notifications, which is huge. So as buyers are starting to think about when it's time to tour, and as they're starting to, want to see what's available in their local market, they can set these great filters and get daily or weekly notifications. It's pretty nice. And I don't know if you've seen this, but we've been making some great updates to the website. We're always open to feedback, but right now you can search by city, zip code, and even the school district, which is really nice in there too. Some of the common filters for our search criteria that we see get used pretty often include down payment, of course, size of home, but also the monthly budget. How much do we want to look for? How much are they searching for? So some nice ideas there. We recently had a customer a couple weeks ago in Georgia. She's a teacher. She and her husband are expecting their third baby, and they were using the Rome site. They were looking for their next home. They were wanting to upsize. But with today's rates, she just kept telling me, like, I don't think I can afford to buy until she found this home that was right within her budget. It was really an exciting moment for her. She went into contract, and she actually told our partner agent that was helping on the deal, like, I feel so lucky. I'm so grateful. I actually feel like I found my forever home. And that's exciting. Like, these are stories that we're unlocking. These are customers we're actually touching. And it's an incredible opportunity for both buyers, sellers, and agents, which we'll dive into more. So what does Rome do, right? What's our role as we come alongside agents and customers? So you can think about us more in the sense of being transaction coordinators. So our job is to bridge the gap between the lender and all parties involved. So we're talking about the buyer, the seller, both agents, title and escrow, and any other closing coordinators, anyone that's important in the transaction. So what we do is we're pretty familiar with most of the lenders. We've built processes around them, and we're the ones communicating with them pretty frequently just to make sure everything is smooth sailing from here. So we'll dive into all those details here shortly, but my goal is by the end of this webinar that you'll understand why assumptions are a really key tool just for any agent out there in today's market. So a mortgage assumption, what is it, right? This is a very common question. It is where a buyer is fully qualifying to take on the seller's loan. So per the FHA and the VA guidelines, it's intended for primary and owner-occupied residences, and it's within a 60-day move-in period as well. An assumption is unfortunately not intended for investors, as it has to be a primary residence. But I will tell you, I've seen some great customers think about this in terms of house hacking, where maybe you look to purchase a duplex, you live in one unit, and you rent out the other one. Something like that could be okay. An assumption is not, however, a subject to financing deal. It's not possible on a short sale or a reverse mortgage, but it is a really, really great opportunity to take over someone's low interest rate and save hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of the loan. And with today's rates, oftentimes it's the only path forward for a lot of buyers. Our team gets on the phones with buyers every day where they say, if it's not an assumable, I can't buy it. I'm just not in that place today where it makes financial sense. So this is a great path forward for those folks. And another common feedback I hear is, well, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? Like, why isn't everybody doing an assumable? Well, one of the reasons why is the buyer must cover the seller's equity in the process. So just take the purchase price or whatever the offer accepted price is, subtract whatever the current remaining mortgage balance is, and that's the down payment. So if you've been on our site, just taking a look at online listings, you've probably noticed those down payments can vary quite a bit. Some of them can be very, very large. And so what we've done is we've made some amazing lender partnerships where they may be able to assist with that process as well. We'll dive into those details here shortly. So what are some common misconceptions about assumptions? Our team runs into this quite often. So as mentioned, assumables have been really tough to find until now. People have also attributed to them with forking out lots of cash. I've seen homes, I'll tell you on our site, anywhere as low as maybe a couple $1,000s in down payment, all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So as I mentioned, we've got some really great lender partnerships who may be able to assist for some of these properties. And then, of course, another misconception is the time to close is too long. Well, one of the things that we offer is a seller guarantee, where the seller does continue to pay their mortgage, but if we don't close within 60 days or less, we'll actually reimburse them for part of their payment upon closing. So I've seen this be a great tool for sellers who the pain is about carrying two payments. And so while we're working to close it as soon as possible, that you still have this option where we can go ahead and reimburse at time of closing. All right, so let's move on to some fun facts and let's see if you can guess. So what amount in outstanding mortgages are eligible for assumption? You can go ahead and enter your answers into the Q&A. This is always kind of a fun number to see, like, what do you think? See what people are answering there. Yep, a whopping 1.5 trillion in loans are eligible for assumption. Tom, were you going to say something? Were you going to guess?
Yeah, I was going to say we had an answer for 500 billion, but yeah, let's
oh my.
yeah, looking at the next question, like what percentage of mortgages originated during the low rate years of 2020 and 2023 that were assumable? Like drop your answer in the chat. We love to hear the feedback on this because like a lot of these numbers were shocking to me personally when I first heard them. So I can only imagine, I would love to get further feedback. Let's see, we got 33%, we got another 33%. All right, it looks like 33% is the winner for this one.
It's a good number.
And that's correct. Yes. It was like I personally found that very high considering it's only government-backed loans, but you know, it's people were taking advantage. And now we live in a world where for the past 4 years, 1 in 3 homes is now assumable. And then finally, we'll love to get the feedback on like what percentage of the current listings are assumable, because this was another number that might surprise you. Just drop your answers in the Q&A. I got one for 20%. We got a 10%. Well, the answer is 20%. Yes, the universal rule of thumb here is there are more assumable mortgages than ever before. And, you know, that was really one of the driving factors when Rome was created was there is so much opportunity here. And prior to Rome, there was only a couple thousand assumptions being done every year. You know, we hope to 10x, if not 20x that number within just this year alone.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
I'll
Well,
throw it
nice
back to you,
job.
Claudia.
Yes, thanks. So let's talk a little bit about sellers. I know we've talked a little bit about the process. How does Rome work? What's an overview of what to expect? But let's talk about how sellers can benefit from their assumable mortgage. So what's really exciting about Rome right now is we have over 5,000 new buyers that are registering each week. Now, granted, some of these buyers, they're just starting their home buying journey. They're just starting to explore their options, but we do have some that are actively looking to tour and they want to offer as soon as they find something that's a good fit. So a common question that I'll ask and our team will ask our buyers is, well, tell us about your timeline. And a really common answer might be like, well, it just depends. If I find something that makes financial sense and the numbers align, I'm ready to pull the trigger. Like if I find the right home, I'm ready to go. So what we're seeing is that this behavior, they're really motivated. And that's really exciting is that there's just a lot of opportunity out there. So part of when we offer this service is the accuracy of data is just so important to us that we've actually begun this process of verifying data with Rome. So what this means is we started verifying listings just by connecting with listing agents and confirming mortgage data. And we can do that and then bump those listings to the very top of our page. This is great for sellers because it's risk-free for them and puts more eyes on their listing, right? Which we ultimately want. So I had a story. It was just a few days ago. I connected with a listing agent. She had very little interest in general in her listing, kind of approaching close to 90 days on the market. But one of our team members verified the listing, got it bumped to the top, and within a week, she had several inquiries. And she right now has a competitive market offer on this listing. Now, this is just one property. It's just one agent that we've talked to in the last couple weeks. So for those folks that are choosing to partner with Rome, the buyers that are coming on board that are super excited to work with us, we can provide that seller guarantee that I mentioned before as well. It's been amazing. I've had some conversations with listing agents where after we've talked about a possible buyer, they've said to me, oh my gosh, this is such a great service, not just for buyers, but also for my seller. I think I'm going to make this mandatory in terms of my next transaction, whether they accept that offer or the next one. Just seeing the value of us being able to guide both buyer and seller through the process has been really fruitful so far. And it's those relationships with agents that we really want to cultivate. So as we look to hopefully drive more traffic to listings, we want to ideally generate some more offers. So as we all know, selling is a numbers game and Rome puts eyes on your listing. So those Rome listings, they're viewed pretty often. I think the most recent data shows thousands and thousands of views a day, with many of those actually proceeding to tour. So what's nice about our buyers is typically the ones that we're having these conversations with, they're well qualified. They've already been pre-approved. If they're not already, they're on the way to do so. They've got cash on hand for these larger down payments, or they're ready and they'll have no issue being credit qualified for that second lien. Moreover, these guys are ready to go. These buyers are motivated. They're just excited to find that right home. Ultimately, we want to lead that to less days on market, more offers coming towards a listing agent's way, and a reliable close. Because one of the things interesting with an assumption is there's usually no appraisal. So no appraisal risk, a huge win for everybody involved. So as I mentioned before, the service is free for sellers. There's no cost for Rome to a seller. And I've had some really great phone calls with sellers and listing agents alike where we're chatting about the process, and they're just so thankful that someone's actually walking their assumption through to close. They know someone's there to guide them through the process. So how do we do this? What's the first step? So we want to verify the listing with Rome. This is super easy. We can actually verify it pretty quickly, like 60 seconds or less. Most of the time, sellers or listing agents, they can just get this data from the seller, or I've even had sellers hop on a call with me, log into their online bank portal, and just pull some very basic data. What I need is just the current interest rate, the remaining mortgage balance, and the payment. So if we can get those details plugged into the system, we can get that listing bumped to the top. Ideally, if I can get the lender details, like who the lender is and the all-in monthly payment, it's even better because when that interested buyer comes my way or to the team's way, we can actually see what that all-in payment is and make sure that we can, get them teed up and ready to tour and kind of go from there. So moreover, we even have some other tools that we can send to listing agents. We've had a lot of requests, even just in the last few months, for different collateral. So we can provide listing descriptions for the listings. We have some really great images and blurbs that can be added to your listing that advertise the low interest rate. So that's available as well. So we'll send some collateral after the webinar on details on how to access that. Tom will send that out. So oftentimes listing agents will wonder, well, how do I know if this listing is a good fit for an assumable? How do I know if I should really be targeting this in terms of a marketing perspective? So keep in mind a few things. One of the things you probably want to keep top of mind is how much is the mortgage on the property, right? Like how big is that gap of a down payment? That's something to think about. How low is the interest rate? That's something you want to weigh as well, because we've got some buyers that are really, really excited about just the payment. They want to be between a certain range or within a low number. And then we've got others that are really focused on that interest rate. So those are some things you want to probably think about as you're assessing that. But both FHA and VA loans are eligible for assumption. It's worth mentioning, people often ask me, is it more difficult to qualify for a VA loan? The process is about the same, but the VA may have some differing requirements. And that being said, ideally, we are looking at loans that are current on their payments. That's pretty important. In a lot of cases, the lender will want that payment to be current, or at least brought current to start the process. So let's talk a little bit about buyers. So for buyers, Rome can help position offers in a way that they're competitive with today's conventional and cash offers. It's been pretty exciting to see. When our advisor team is working with buyers, we do tell them, hey, we recommend and urge you to submit a very market competitive offer considering that low interest rate you're assuming. So it's been great having these conversations and seeing with buyers. They love looking at these numbers and saying, wow, look at how much more house I can afford. It's just amazing. I didn't even think about buying a year ago, and now this might be an opportunity for me. And of course, the appraisal is most often not necessary. So let's talk a little bit about the down payment. As I mentioned before, I wanted to talk about some of these details with you as well, because a lot of times the buyer may not have all of that cash on hand to cover the entire down payment. So in this case, a second mortgage can be used to cover that seller's equity and allow an assumption, maxing out the buyer's down payment to 15%. We have a really great network of partners that we work with. So it just depends on the market and depends on the buyer situation. We can absolutely send them and recommend the right partner. And a lot of times when I've worked with agents, they'll send customers our way. We'll crunch some numbers for them and say, okay, based on this information, here's what we're looking at in terms of some numbers for your payment and cash to close, and we'll get them connected with the right lender at that time. And then another common question that comes up is, well, how does it work for the rates for a second? And so it's worth mentioning the blended rate here. This is something we cover with them as well. So for example, let's say we have a first rate mortgage of 2.5% and then a second at 9%. Well, if you blend those two, you'll get somewhere near around 4%, which is still way below where it is today and still unlocking so many savings for consumers today. And how does it work for buyers? So let's talk a little bit about how it works when they choose to partner with Rome. What's the step? So first, we have to find some homes with low rates, right? Like that's the key. And we'll help do that with having those brand new listings available on the website, or hopefully they've signed up to get those emails so that they're being notified in real time when something hits the market. When it comes time to move forward, what they'll do is they'll work with their agent, to submit an offer. And then sometimes agents will copy us on the offer, which is nice, so that we know once that offer is accepted, we can just jump right in and get to work. Some of you may have written offers on an assumption before. For some, it may be your first time. Our team is very familiar with the process. We're happy to provide some guidance with agents on the phone, 15 minutes or less, kind of walk through some of those steps in terms of what we've seen other agents do. So we can absolutely give you some guidance there. And then finally, as soon as that offer is accepted, our team of experts, they'll handle all the assumption-specific questions. I have team members that will actually jump on the phone with the seller and the lender together just to make sure that handoff is as smooth as possible and that the transaction is flowing as easy as possible. And moreover than that, the buyer can actually do what they want to do, which is focus on the move and not be on the phone with the lender all the time. So we do want you to lean on Rome and really trust us to be that resource in finding homes eligible for assumption. We're always open to feedback. Go online, play with those filters, do some searches. You know, if there's anything that you see that would make the experience better, like please let us know. You can always reach out to us at support@withrome.com. And again, you'll get an email after the webinar so that you can always communicate with us that way. And let's talk a little bit about how agents have been using Assumables to grow their business. This is really exciting because we have our agent partnership right now, and we are actively growing that as well. But let's talk about how Rome is totally free for agents. We get these questions very, very often. They come up. So how does this work? Is this going to impact my commission? The answer is no. It is not going to impact your commission to partner with Rome. Who pays for the fee? Well, our agreement is with the buyer, but I'll tell you, I've worked with buyers and sellers where I've seen some instances where the seller has completely paid for the fee, or maybe the buyer and seller have split the fee. So we leave that up to you as the real estate experts to consider all of that when you're writing your offer. You know, how does that make sense for you? And we can definitely provide some input here on what we're seeing be successful. We really value our agent partnerships. You know, we've got some really, really great relationships now, and we want to continue to grow on those. So, you know, these are just a couple of statements from partners that we have now. And what's really exciting to talk about is we have one of our top partner agents. He is actually on track to make $400,000 this year just on Rome assumptions. That's pretty incredible. We get a lot of requests about how can we partner with Rome? How can we move forward with you and kind of, you know, step into this direction? So what you can do is you can become a Rome preferred agent. What we do is we'll do a warm handoff from a buyer to you. We've started building some really great relationships with these buyers, and a lot of times they'll come in unrepresented. And so there is a lot of demand for experienced agents familiar with assumptions, or at least willing to learn and get comfortable with how this process works. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and introduce them to our preferred partners. Earlier, I mentioned that verification with the Rome process. Well, that helps bump those listings to the top. So I'll tell you, time and again, I've seen when those listings are verified, it is so much easier to streamline the offer process and just have things kind of flow from there. So a lot of times I'll lean on, and our team will lean on our preferred partners to help us with the verification process. We really work as a team as we are working through the assumption process together. So what's the next step? How does someone become a preferred agent? So the first step is to learn about assumable mortgages, which you're all taking that step today. You're already doing that. And then we'll provide you all the training. So no worries there. We'll make sure that you're adequately equipped. You know, we've got collateral on hand. We'll be rolling out other trainings. We can make sure you feel ready to have those conversations with your clients. And what we'll do is we'll develop an initial pilot program just based on your brokerage. We'll connect you with some well-qualified buyers. We'll send those your way. These are folks, again, that have requested to be connected to an agent. These are buyers ready to have a conversation and start making some plans to tour. What we'll do is have you help us verify some listings in your area. And then from there, we'll directly feature and promote those listings to our buyers. So again, the goal is to increase these listings that are verified with Rome, which will really help in terms of buyers looking and just streamlining that offer process. Now, assuming everything goes great in this pilot, what happens next is we'll sign a formal agreement. We'll talk about some metrics, you know, how do we define success in this partnership, and you'll become a Rome preferred agent. So just due to demand, we've had a lot of demand for this program. We'll have to limit it to 10 agents or brokerages per region just to provide the best possible experience. But at the end, we'll share, you can see it on this slide, but we'll send this out afterwards as well. You can sign up to join our partner program just by scanning that QR code, which will be really nice. And then we'll roll into some common FAQs. So one thing that comes up a lot is, again, just going back to that earlier talking point, the difference between an assumption and a subject to deal. So just to recap, I know we talked about this already, but in a mortgage assumption, the buyer takes over the seller's existing mortgage, right? So these buyers are fully qualifying with that lender. They're providing the same documentation that they would in a traditional mortgage origination. So bank statements, maybe tax information, same sort of thing. And the seller's name gets taken off of the loan, and that release of liability is filed. So moreover, the buyer is coming with that cash to close, and it's a strong market competitive offer. Another question is around VA entitlement. Can a non-veteran assume a VA loan? And how does that work? Absolutely. So a non-veteran can assume a veteran's loan. This will be up to the veteran's discretion. They've worked very hard for their entitlement. And so it'll be up to them to discuss if releasing part of their entitlement temporarily makes sense. So if the buyer, for example, is a veteran to veteran, it would be just an entitlement swap. If it's a non-veteran, then the seller's entitlement is tied into that loan until the loan is paid off or the property is sold. So I have learned in talking with different sellers and listing agents about this process and if it makes sense for them. They typically will make that decision based on where they're at in their buying journey. So that really is up to them, and then we can assist with that process too in explaining how this works to the seller. Always happy to hop on those calls and calculate entitlement if it's helpful. And then lastly, how much does Rome cost? So Rome doesn't collect any fees to start the process, but it's 1% of the purchase price, not the loan amount, but of the purchase price at time of closing on closing day. But what I've learned too is that most buyers don't mind paying that fee just because the overall cost savings is so huge that, usually within a couple of months, they're recouping that. So usually, not a big deal to them. They're just excited to be able to buy a home today. So with that being said, we should tap into to see if there's any other questions that have been mentioned. If we open up the Q&A, let's take a look here.
There isn't right now, but everyone in the webinar, feel free to ask questions. Like we know assumptions. We're happy to answer any questions you might have, whether it's about the assumption itself, our partner program, how we can build business together. Like we are one of the most agent-friendly firms out there, and like our goal is to just boost your business and like take all the buyers along the way in that sense, because we think assumptions are like the best thing since sliced bread for the current market. So Shane just asked, where is Rome available today?
Yes.
We are.
Go ahead,
sorry,
Tom.
Claudia.
No, go ahead.
I think you have the more concrete answer.
All right. Well, so Rome is live in Colorado, Arizona, Florida, Texas, and we are actively working to come live to several other markets right now. There's another really great question that's just come up. How do you pick new markets? Yeah, gosh, that's a really good question. So there's a couple of ways that we want to identify where a new market might work. A big question is demand. We want to see where those FHA and VA assumable mortgages are. So what we'll do is we'll take a look at those markets, and based on where we see a high percentage of assumable loans, that is really where we want to start. In addition, there are some additional stipulations for how we want to be able to be licensed in each of these states. So we do take a lot of different information into account. We're excited to be continuously working through this and evolving. Ideally, we want to grow as fast as we can. And I think in an ideal world, we're live everywhere. And as we work to, accomplish that goal, we'll kind of take it one market at a time. Ronak, I don't know if you have any additional feedback, if you want to jump in with how we kind of pick those markets.
Yeah, that pretty much covers it, Claudia. I think, if there's a market where you're seeing a lot of sellers or buyers ask for the service, please let us know. And that always factors into our framework for how we pick markets in addition to the data that we're seeing.
Yeah, and I'm just going to mention as a blanket statement, we're also in Georgia. And if you're on this call, we're probably on your market because we only invited folks who were in markets we're serving. So like we should be covering your markets. But yeah, to Ronek's point, any market at all you would like us to be in, we're always interested in where there is demand for assumptions and basically prioritizing based off that.
Yeah, you'll also see that if you're on the website and you're browsing in an area where Rome isn't available yet, you'll be able to actually click the Get Notified button and enter your email. That will allow us to be able to email you once we are live in that market to let you know we're live. You can go ahead and purchase today, and we're here to support you. So if you are in a market that we don't service or in a geography that we don't service, please just hit the get notified button, and you'll be the first person to know when we are live in your market.
All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions. Just put them in there if there is any more. Actually, we have one more question from Kristen. I noticed that in my market area, there are assumable loan properties missing from the website. Are we able to submit what properties to add to the site? Absolutely. Like if there is a property that has not been flagged by our proprietary data, we want to know. It helps us track down why that assumable wasn't found within our data. And also, yes, like we want to have every single assumable possible on the market. I would say right now, we catch the lion's share majority of it, but there are occasional ones like maybe our bounding box is a little too narrow for a certain region, or maybe it's just slightly outside our views. Like if you find anything, let us know. We will take care of it within a business day and get it on the site.
Yeah, it's a good point. And Kristen, thanks for sharing that question because it does bring up another point. I've seen this happen before where I've talked to an agent and they said, wait a second, I've got someone interested in this property, but it wasn't on your site. After doing some more research, we also saw that there was a really big gap between what the offer price was and the loan to value. So just as a heads up, some of those properties that are not on our site today, it could be just that there's a really, really large gap. Say, for example, an $800,000 purchase price and a $100,000 loan. That may not filter through to our site, but we're always happy to chat with you kind of offsides about that. If you've got someone who might be interested, absolutely, as Tom mentioned, happy to kind of add it to the site if that makes sense, or still be able to facilitate with the transaction coordination itself. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. So I'm going to go back to the slide that had the QR code. Feel free to ask any more questions. We'll hang around for a couple additional minutes. But thank you everyone for joining. Actually, we have one more question. Who qualifies the buyer for the assumable loan, Rome or someone else?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So Rome, because we're not a lender, we do not qualify the buyer. There are a couple of things that can be helpful in this process is that buyers will still go to get pre-qualified often as they're shopping, right? That's really helpful for you as agents as well to have them ready to go and you have a better idea of where everything stands. So typically, if they're okay with that pre-qualification, that does give everyone some peace of mind as we enter into contract, but we don't actually go through and do a pre-qual on them. When the assumption begins, the lender will take them through a pretty thorough underwriting process, which they will get fully qualified in. But I'd say most agents are probably getting pre-quals, or if not on everyone, that's a discussion that's happening. So if you're already getting that from a buyer, then I think you're on the right track.
We have another one. I've noticed as an agent, the website treats me as a buyer and I have to keep signing up to see listings. Yes, let me think. So everyone knows it's something we're actively working on. It's an area of the website that we are working on. What I would suggest, Claudia, also feel free to jump in, is create an account for yourself. Use that as like your search. If you have a buyer who is interested in Assumable, either create an account for them. You can save searches. It can be like some, a shared password in that sense. And you can really send listings over and really keep tight with your buyer. But there will be an overhaul around that side of the website here soon. It's just not live yet. So you can make an account for yourself. I highly suggest doing that so you can at least get notified for interesting listings that maybe you want to market. But for your buyers, they're going to need an account anyways, more than likely. So I usually suggest that people just create an account for their buyer. You can give them the login and then just either start saving or have them start saving searches, listings, whatever. It's like use them to help you as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right. Like I said, we'll stay around for a couple more minutes if there's any outstanding questions. Thank you everyone for joining today. We're really excited to hopefully work with some of y'all in the next month or two. And we hope to be running pilots with you very soon. So please, if you have any questions at all, you can always reach us at support@withrome.com. And don't be a stranger. Our team is, incredibly friendly, tight, and ready to like work with you. Like we're all in this together. It's a rough market out there. We're hoping to be the keys to like really grow GCI. Like we view you truly as partners, so we look forward to working with you all. And thank you again for joining.
Yes, thanks everyone for joining.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you again. We're going to be turning it off at this point, but like I said, any questions that come up now or later, we're right around the corner at support@withrome.com. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.